In the last week, this video titled Principles for Dealing with the Changing World Order by Ray Dalio received over 4 million views. It is essentially a 44-minute presentation that highlights the downfall of various world economies, the changes that lead to them, and how the United States of America is headed towards a dark future where a rising superpower, otherwise known as China, takes over as the dominant world force. In today's video, we examine what Dalio is trying to say by reading between the lines. When the CEO of the world's largest hedge fund publicly announces that there will be a change in the world order, you have to open your ears and listen carefully. This could be the beginning of something massive, the end of the party as we know it. We begin with the most controversial part of his presentation. It's in the title itself. The changing world order. Sounds scary because it is. Although he doesn't state it directly, what Dalio summarizes is that empires go through natural cycles of dominance and downfall. He uses a wide range of stats and history to develop his theories, and what he concludes is that the country which holds reserve currency status is the country that sits at the top of the world order. According to Ray, the United States has held this prestigious status since 1944, following what is known as the Bretton Woods Agreement. Before the US, the world was mostly run by Britain. Before them, it was the Dutch, and before them, it was the Spaniards. This natural cycle happens over hundreds of years. But here's the thing, Dalio claims America has already peaked, and we are now on our way down in this long cycle. He claims that the country is entering a transition period where a rising power, aka China, is overtaking us and will in the near future become the head of the world order by becoming the new reserve currency. To fully grasp how big of a deal this is, you need to watch his full video, which is linked in the description below. But in short, the US losing reserve currency status to China would spell the end of an empire. Many of the economic privileges we enjoy today would be gone forever. This opinion Dalio believes in is nothing new. In 2020, he sat down with Bloomberg and said this outright. If you don't believe it, listen to his last sentence in this clip.
I was browsing through your book, and obviously you look back at the last 500 years. It was the currency of the superpower in place that was the reserve currency. Back in the 1930s, last century, about 100 years ago, it was sterling, then it went to the US dollar. How does that all inform you of what happens to the US dollar next?
Well, the sequence is very clear. The first thing happens is that you put a lot of credit, a lot of debt, and a lot of money, and it devalues it relative to other assets. And so when you look at history of those, there were three major currency empires. The Dutch and the Dutch guilder, followed by the British and the British pound, and the US and the US dollar. And they have to do with which are the largest trading countries, because they bring their money around the world. And there's that cycle. And that cycle now is having China is now the largest trading country. And you're starting to see the development of capital markets in China that are open to foreign investors. You're starting to see, you will see the internationalization of the renminbi. You will see opening capital markets. You'll see the development of the financial center. That is all part of that pattern that's happened over and over again. I don't believe the renminbi will be a viable reserve currency quickly, but I do believe it'll happen much faster than anybody expects.
Okay, so it's very apparent that Dalio believes the worst is coming for America, and if you look at surveys, it's clear that most Americans tend to agree with him. The public is broadly pessimistic about the future here in the US. A record amount of Americans believe that our country will be less important in the world, more politically divided, and more financially separated in the near future. And honestly, if you look around at the events that have unfolded in the past 10 years, this should come as no surprise to anyone. But there is a big asterisk to all of this. Sure, we can all agree that things haven't been going our way lately, but what about the other side of the coin? The optimistic side that sadly isn't as popular. As smart as Dalio is, there are plenty of alternative views, and this guy, the world's most successful investor, falls into this glass half full category. Most of us watching this video fail to realize just how bad things were during certain portions of this young nation's rise to world dominance. We've had a civil war, a Great Depression, a world war, an oil shock, 15% inflation, massive economic recessions, and countless social conflicts that ultimately resulted in this: the world's greatest economy, a leader in innovation, and a global military powerhouse. After all, when you look at all the metrics out there, the fall of the dollar is what it comes down to. For the US to collapse in the way that Ray Dalio describes it will, it has to lose its status as the reserve currency, and if you back up a bit, you start to realize just how far we are from this. Anywhere in the world, the dollar is widely accepted as a safe haven. Even in Russia, where a complete economic collapse is happening right now, Russians are flocking not to yens, euros, or Chinese currencies. They are jumping to the US dollar. So much so that Russia has had to ban all ruble-dollar exchanges. The dollar index is showing no signs of slowing down, and as much as we complain about money printing, it's not much better than what nearly every other civilized nation on earth does today. Everyone is printing money and abusing their presses, except the US has a massive advantage in that their printed money is widely in demand outside of its borders, giving it a massive advantage over other nations. For this to change, there needs to be a worldwide shift in psychology and, in my opinion, a weakening of the American military complex, which despite setbacks still dominates the world. Warren Buffett has made it clear that the US always prevails, and while there are periods where human psychology tends to think towards the extreme, the overall result is always the same: never bet against America. He's very open about the fact that extreme depressions and extreme euphoria are the building blocks that create opportunities for people like himself and Charlie Munger, allowing them to swoop in during these turbulent times and build billions. Without wild swings and massive panics, both admit they wouldn't be close to where they are today. Take a listen to Mr. Buffett explain why he believes in America over China and why extreme market depressions are necessary in order to make money. But before I show you this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you're enjoying it thus far. Now back to the video.
In any system, Keynes wrote about this in 1936, I think it was, in the General Theory, or 35, I think it's chapter 12. It's a great chapter on investing. And he talked about investment and speculation and the propensity of people to speculate and the dangers of it, and worded eloquently. There's always the possibility of, there's always some speculation, obviously, and there's always some value investors and all of that sort of thing in the market. But when speculation gets rampant, and when you're getting what I guess Charlie would call social proof that it's worked recently, people can get very excited about speculating in markets, and we will have it from time to time in this market. There's nothing more agonizing than to see your neighbor, who you think has an IQ about 30 points below you, getting richer than you are by buying stocks, and whether it's internet stocks or whatever, and people succumb to it, and they'll succumb in this economy just as elsewhere.
So in summary, Dalio is extremely pessimistic about America, and he builds a decent case in his 44-minute video, but he fails to take into account that empires have been known to last thousands of years, and there is nothing to say that America could be one of these cases in world history. Simply put, it's very easy to get drawn into the news, but as we know, the pendulum tends to swing the other way, and governments figure things out, improve, and build back better. It wouldn't be controversial to say that Buffett likely believes things must get a lot worse before they can get a lot better, and that might explain why he's sitting on over $140 billion in cash, ready to exploit the opportunity and make trillions more. As always, thank you guys for watching. Please make sure you hit that like and subscribe button if you enjoyed it, and leave a comment on whether you believe Dalio or you tend to think like Warren.